We've been to all four corners of Britain in our quest to interview the great and good of entertainment. Comics, actors, writers, politicians, singers, dancers and choreographers. It doesn't matter who they are. They've all given me their own take on the world they live in and have, in their own way, helped to define what makes Britain great. So join me and my assistants as we get another insight into the marvellous and enigmatic world of showbiz here on Beyond the Title.
Writer and comedian Mo Gilligan swapped a life in retail for comedy in 2017 when his videos were spotted by Canadian rapper Drake, who cited him on his Instagram account. A quick rise to prominence within the UK comedy circuit attracted attention from TV producers, who united him with the UK grime artist for Channel 4's The McNasty Show in 2018, followed by securing his own self-titled Channel 4 Friday night chat show earlier this year. I caught up with TV's newest jostler to talk rap, comedy and his hopes for the future. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mo Gilligan.
You've frequently cited your comedy influences being mostly from transatlantic sense of humour, including people like Chris Rock. How did you adapt that sort of brash, vivacious comedy to fit British comedy landscape?
Yeah, I guess with a lot of the comedy I was introduced to was through things like Def Comedy Jam. That was most over the first time I'd seen, I'd seen other black comics at that time, but I'd never seen comics talk about subjects I didn't know about, which sometimes were things about like O.J. Simpson and, the LA riots. I'd never seen comedy on that scale before. I think I was obviously massively influenced through that. I guess what I always took from that was the physicality through that comedy, but I was always influenced by people like, Lee Evans and, Mickey Flanagan. So it was almost like, how can I take the physicality of like those comics that I'd watched on like a Def Jam, but then have the narrative and style of, a comedian like Lee Evans or Mickey Flanagan. So, I always just tried to make sure I talk about myself a lot and my story. I think that's what kind of started to shine through with my style of comedy.
Cool. So, sort of only sort of semi-recently you received your sort of major first public adulation with American rapper Drake mentioning you in an Instagram post. Your opinion, how has that sort of social media side of things revolutionised the way that stars are created, and sort of how that gave you a platform to move into comedy?
Yeah, it's obviously nice when someone like Drake recognizes what you do. It's always like, I guess for me, it's always very important to it's hard because as much as he recognized it, I never think it was the catalyst in my my success with comedy. I think the cool thing is what it did do, social media, it opened me up to a bigger audience that I realized, because I'm thinking, this is my mates watching it. But then when you get someone like, a huge, rapper like Drake, then you're like, oh my gosh, this is how far it can go. And the kind of people that would normally not get to see my stuff can see my stuff. So I think that's the cool thing about social media is that it can open you up to worlds that you never knew was possible. Yeah.
Was there a weird feeling though when that sort of level of reach the first time that happened?
Oh yeah, of course. I think it was more so like when he followed me on social media. I was like, wow, oh my gosh, he follows me. I'm always excited when anyone follows me, but I guess it was like seeing someone like him. But then there's other people who are like, I'm from Australia and I watch your stuff, or I'm from Canada, I'm from, the US. I think that's when you start to realize you're like, wow, this is like, normally it would take without social media, it would take a different path for you to get recognized in other countries, and I've been recognized in countries I hadn't been in before. So I think that was the beauty of what I was realizing that I was doing, is that it's so much broader than just who you think would like your stuff,
Yeah, cool. So in terms of your career, obviously it's happened within quite a short space of time. How have you managed to sort of quantify your journey so far and sort of keep your feet on the ground, I suppose?
I spend a lot of time with my family and my friends and stuff. Try and when I'm not doing stand-up comedy, I guess that's where I just get a chance to just really try and like chill out through kind of the showbiz life as such. You know, like I like playing football with my friends, like just like the things that I used to love doing before I got to do what it is that I do now. So I think it's very important that I still do those things because it's good to switch off, but at the same time it's like I can go football with my friends and they still take, you know, the mick at me if I miss an open goal. Do you know what I mean? You know.
You're not immune.
Yeah, those things are very humbling. They bring you back down to earth, you know.
Yeah. So touring stand-up then, that you mentioned there, is notoriously quite a difficult thing to perfect and also just to have the drive to do night after night. Tell us a little about the development process of a comedian starting as sort of bottom of the bill and then becoming a headline act, and you get the chance to play a lot of comedy clubs, I'm sure. Are there any in particular that you really enjoyed?
Yeah, I guess that's the cool thing with stand-up is you're always perfecting like your art or your joke or you know, your style, the way you say things. You know, when you are that young comic, you are the one that's first. So you got a lot to live up to because then you're like, sometimes you just want to impress the headliners who are watching. You know, you hope that they might see you if they get there on time. And then when you move second on the bill, then you're like, okay, well, I'm not good enough to headline, but I'm not the guy that's first anymore. And then when you do move into a place where you're headlining, you know, I meet comics now who know who I am already and I don't know who they are. So I now have to live up to, you know, a good representation of me as a comic, you know. I want to be open and, you know, even if they like, you know, sometimes I meet new comics and they want advice and I'm always making sure I'm always giving advice and helping them, or if I've got a small gig and like swapping numbers and saying, like come and do my gig, because it's very important. If you're the guy that's headlining, you are, you know, because I remember being that comedian who was young, who was headlining, and sometimes the guys who have been in it for a little while kind of ignore you a little bit, and you're like, you know, and that's not to say that they don't have to show you that recognition, but it is very important when you're on the circuit and you're starting out that, you know, you are checking for the new guys, and you are, you know, even if the guy who's second, you know, you're like, oh man, that good set, and you are watching their set, that means a lot to those comedians. So it is definitely like a ranking system, but I guess even now it's even harder that if I do headline, I have to deliver more than ever because now people are like, oh, I've seen you on TV, like you better be good, you know. Whereas when you're starting out, you can just, you'd be like, well, they mostly won't remember who I am, so it's not a problem.
Is that a little bit daunting then, trying to live up to the sort of expectation? Where it's happened so quickly, you're a bit like, whoa, you know. Yeah,
I guess it is a little bit, especially with like when you're on the circuit, because sometimes I might go to a night that's like an open mic night, and people are like, oh man, I've seen some TV, he's going to be great. And I'm like, no, I'm just trying out some new stuff. And when you try out new stuff when you're starting out and it works, it's so much better than when people know who you are trying out new stuff. Because if, you know, when people don't know who you are, you're like, okay, that wasn't really well, or that joke's really worked. But you also don't want, you can try out new stuff and people will just be laughing because they're like, oh, I've seen him on TV, it's great, it's funny. And it gives you a false sense of reality a little bit, you know, because you're like, I don't know if this is good. Or they're just laughing because they have seen my stuff before and they're just quite excited that I'm doing a new material night, you know?
Yeah. Josh just asked you, is it sort of like its own little community then, the sort of comedy club comedians?
The circuit is a massive community in terms of you know, new comedians, established comedians, you know, the comedy club promoters, the comedy club people who own the clubs. It is a big community. Some people don't know people, but if someone is new, you might have heard of them through another comic. So a lot of comics, they kind of know what's going on, and it's really important to, even if you're not on the circuit as much, you want to know what's going on. You know, what's the new place that's everyone's performing at? How was that competition? Is that club still good? I heard, that's very important to know what's going on within the realms of stand-up comedy,
And then in 2018, you secured a presenting role on Channel 4's McNasty Show. What were your first impressions of that show, sort of moving into TV?
Yeah, that was my first ever TV kind of something where I just felt like I was kind of leading it a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't the main person. And it was an introduction to me in TV. And it was exciting because I've never done any TV. So to do a show like that, which was very loose, it was quite unpredictable. You had really we had people like Tandy Newton as guests. It was really exciting, but at the same time, I started to realize that I've got a job to do here. I can't just be to it. I can't be excited all the time. I need to make sure that I've got a job here to do. And I was quite lucky enough that I was one of the people that got to write on the show. So it was really cool to start seeing your ideas come to life and then be added onto a show. And you're like, oh my God, that was my idea. That was my sketch. That was the most exciting thing about doing the first series of Big Nasty.
Yeah, quite a cool way to do it as well, I suppose, where you weren't sort of the star vehicle for the show, but you became sort of the star towards the end of, and then obviously led on to your own show afterwards.
Oh, cheers, thank you. Yeah, it was a massive learning curve with that show because I'm very much a person who likes to learn when these opportunities come along. So I want to know how, why is that camera there, and how do we do that, and so how does it get edited, and what's the process? It's very important to know how these things work.
Yeah, and obviously when you're on the Big Nasty Show, you're with obviously Nasty has become such a cultural figure, sort of recently, really, from this innocent, unknowingly natural charm. How difficult is it to co-host with somebody who comes across at least so televisually unaware?
No, I think that's the best thing about it is that we're both doing TV and we've both never done TV before. Yeah. So my first introduction of doing TV is just someone who's is someone who is not really he's not made for TV, but he's been given his TV show. So it's like doing TV with one of your friends and you're just having a laugh, as opposed to someone who's a big professional. They've done it for years. They give you tips. Okay, when I do this, okay, make sure you don't do that yet. What you want to do when you're reading the auto cue. It's definitely the opposite. It's just okay, all right, and action, and we just go for it. We just do a TV show, and it's with a packed studio audience. So, yeah, I think that's the pleasure of doing that show. Yeah,
and obviously, like I say, now you've got your own show, and that sort of again come about straight off the back of the Big Nasty Show, and it's quite a crowded market, isn't it? With sort of Graham Norton, Jonathan Ross, Alan Carr, all those kind of people. But what do you think makes your show so unique and why it's been so successful?
I think for my show, I've definitely learned a lot from those shows. I'm a fan of all of those shows. So I guess with me coming in to make a TV show, I've had to kind of find an angle that is a little bit different. And sometimes it's also having people on a couch that normally wouldn't be on a couch. Having Anderson Paak with Eamon Holmes. Yeah. That's what I think where my show is a little bit different from the shows that already exist. Yeah. And then I guess also having, guests and also trying to show a fun side to their personality as well, whether it's through, Nursery Rhymes or, we might have them in a sketch. Yeah. I think that is how I've kind of been able to try and learn to make my show different, but equally also the shows that are already there, they've been around and they've been a success for a long time. So, I'm like the new kid on the block. So I also want to be around for a long time as well. So it's also very important that, you know, like the shows that are there continue to be there, because it just we all help each other at the end of the day. You know, we all offer something different, but, you know, like that's my show is very different from Graham Norton, and Graham Norton is different from, you know, Jonathan Ross. So cool. I think that's the beauty of it as well. Okay?
So you mentioned Nursery Rhymes there. That's like one of the highlights of the series. How do you? How sections like that? Do you deliberately sort of create those to break up that chat show format so that it is a little bit more diverse? And a little bit different?
That I guess with the show, I really wanted to include myself within these games. So Nursery Rhymes came through from like I had this when I've done the Russell Howard Hour. I'll talk about how my dad would do like, you know, Raspberry Nursery Rhymes. And the idea came from that. So already when I had the chance to do my own show, I was like, I really want someone else to do that, but how about we change it every week to their genre? And that's kind of how it came about, really. A lot of the you know, the games or the ideas were just things I've kind of had in stand-up comedy or even sketches, where I could already include things which was like quite personal to me, but then I can just add it for the show. So Nursery Rhymes was the first idea that I most probably had of like, if I had a game show, I'd love to do that. And then it just became so popular, we just ended up doing it every week, because it became like I guess our kind of version of a bit like carpool karaoke, or, you know, Graham Norton's Red Chair. Like that was like my thing, you know.
Yeah, cool. Josh asked, how much sort of free rein do you get given in the creation of the show?
Oh, well, a lot. Well, it's, you know, it's partly made by my own production company. So half of it is made by my production company, and the other half is made by Expectation. Right. So I think that's the beauty of it, is that I'm working with people who have already made TV, then I'm someone that's quite new in making TV. So, there's a lot of ideas. Sometimes we have too many ideas. And normally the case is that we have to kind of fizzle down and be like, okay, we can do this, we can't do that, we're not going to have enough time for that. As opposed to, you know, someone telling me, no, you can't do that, you're not allowed. I'm normally allowed to do a lot of things, but normally the problem is we have too many ideas. So we then normally have to like fizzle them down to like, okay, we're going to just do this because of time. So luckily enough, I'm very like involved in the process of my own show, which is quite you know, quite a good space to be in, like for my first, you know, show.
So looking back at your career so far, what would you say your proudest achievements been?
There's a few. I guess one of them was the tour. The tour was something that I've always wanted to do. It was a chance that got me to travel a lot and show my brand of comedy around the world. You know, we went to Australia, sold out some shows there. So, and with, you know, the tour is something that led to like the Netflix special that we have coming out on the 30th of September. So it's all like been like a catalyst a little bit, you know, to be like done the tour went really well. Then we ended up recording the tour. Now the tour is going to be now shown to the world. So, it's most probably the tour is my proudest achievements today. Like the TV show is great, and that is definitely still up there. But I feel like it kind of stems through this tour. You know, it was the tour that got Channel 4 to kind of recognize me a little bit. You know, so it was a catalyst for a lot of my achievements. You know.
Yeah. So what's next for Mo Gilligan?
I guess next, my new bit of like a passion project. Now I've got some time. I say time off, but just a little bit of time to kind of do some like other projects until like next year. But yeah, next is just now. It's just like I'm going to focus on this podcast I've had for a long time. I've had this idea for like about a year or two, and only now I can really like have a chance to really show it for. And it's like, I guess it's just a different way of just showing like, I guess like, kind of like showing what else I can really do. But that's a little bit more just, I guess it's quite hard when you go from like TV show, you know, Netflix, I guess everyone's sitting there like, you're going to be in a movie? And it's like, oh, I'm doing a podcast. So I guess I always like doing things that are a little bit more different as opposed to the norm, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you to our guest for being the subject of another Beyond the Title interview. If you liked this, why not browse the website and see if there's anything else that takes your fancy. Don't forget to like our Facebook page to receive updates on forthcoming interviews and to see more information about me and what I do. Thanks again, and hopefully see you next time.